Recently, I've been playing Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 4 and revisiting some of the best moments of Shippuden's ending. From watching Shippuden on Toonami weekly to watching it over Crunchyroll, I've been spending probably more of my free time watching Naruto than most would like to admit. But such is the terrible, terrible burden I bear for you. As I rewatched the final battle between Naruto and Sasuke, I recalled Sasuke stating how he wished to be the Hokage and how he would change things if he could. And I said to myself, hey, that would make an awesome what if, and so here we are. What if Sasuke became Hokage? Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. The Amagi's reach stretches beyond just this channel, so if you're a fan of us, please consider subscribing to our other channels and following us on all of our social media. Help us reach our goal of passing 100,000 followers on all of our accounts by the end of the year. So, our story, like all stories, has a beginning. If it didn't, the story probably wouldn't make any sense. And it's a story we all know well. A kind child who has pretty much everything he needs. A deep bond with an older brother. It is then that this older brother casts aside this bond and destroys his clan, murdering his family save for the boy who looked up to and respected him. This is Sasuke's story, and it's one that has led us to the end. Sasuke was full of hatred and anger for so many years because of this. All through his time at the academy, Sasuke was a child who had nothing to look forward to when he got home but his own hatred and empty life. That was until he joined Team 7 under the leadership of Kakashi Hatake. His teammates Naruto and Sakura were rather upbeat all the time, and despite the fact that he would never admit to such, he enjoyed their company. Sakura was always a bit much, constantly obsessing over him in a romantic fashion, and Naruto was always trying to prove that he was better than Sasuke. But at the core of their relationships was nothing but the opposite of hate. Love. And for a while, Sasuke contemplated forgetting about his hatred and revenge to indulge in this love, but it wasn't meant to be. He chose his hatred over their love, and it led him down a rather dark path. It starts when the bell test is being given to them. The goal was to get the bells, but ninjas loved their secret tests, as every Chunin exam's written test proves, in which teamwork and care for one another was to be prioritized over certain orders. To establish the possible costs of such a thing, Kakashi said he would fail them and send them back to the academy should they attempt to feed Naruto, who had tried to cheat and take the food for himself. However, realizing they can't do anything without him, or perhaps they were simply moved with compassion, they feed him against their Jonin's orders, in which Kakashi busts them but passes them, and tells them that this is what he wanted from the start. Later is the Land of Waves mission. Sasuke defends Naruto, who is terrified and makes fun of him. In battle against Zabuza, they display great coordination with their false Fuma Shuriken stunt. After this, both Naruto and Sasuke attempt to climb a tree with their chakra on the soles of their feet, but both fail for vastly different reasons. However, they continue to train together, and Sasuke comes to realize that Naruto truly can be a rival, as he's proving in the moment. During the fight against Haku on the bridge, Sasuke is befuddled by the ignorance Naruto displays in jumping right into a trap without a plan. But perhaps he was pleased by how much Naruto cared, because Sasuke nearly sacrificed his goals and everything just to protect Naruto a moment after. Of course, Sasuke could have never guessed that this would awaken Naruto's initial Jinchuriki mode. Sasuke had done this out of pure altruism, self-sacrifice for the sole reason of protecting his teammate. Naruto takes this a step further during the Chunin exam's second stage, in which Naruto protects Sasuke, who is frozen due to Orochimaru, and even goes so far as to scold him for this, returning the joke he made at Naruto's expense earlier. Due to Naruto and Sakura's words, Sasuke is pushed beyond his fear and fights Orochimaru, only to be branded with the curse mark. One could suppose this curse mark to be symbolic of Sasuke's curse of hatred that tends to be present in all Uchiha. Uchiha feel their emotions strongly. They're very loving, but when what they love is taken, every ounce of love turns to pure hatred, and the Uchiha generally find themselves enslaved by this. Sasuke's curse mark is evocative of this curse of hatred, as even though he has found people who love and care for him, he can't get away even if he tries. After the Chunin exam, the attack on Konoha by Orochimaru officially starts. Sasuke attempts to stop and defeat Gaara, but he fails, unlike Naruto, who almost single-handedly defeats Gaara. This is exacerbated when Itachi rolls up looking for Naruto and utterly destroys Sasuke's mind with Tsukiyomi, much like he had Kakashi. This is eventually healed by Tsunade, but it hits him all at once. He feels like he's not getting any stronger and is losing everything to Naruto, who has seemingly surpassed him. Him! The class clown surpassing the valedictorian. To prove that he's still better than Naruto, he demands a battle and goes a bit too far with the intent to kill. He feels like he beat Naruto when he investigates the water towers at first, but upon seeing the back of them realizes that he was nothing compared to Naruto. It was then, as he was thinking about this, that he was attacked by the Sound Four. They offer a true choice to him: love or hate, peace or revenge, second place or first. Sasuke is posed with all of these questions, and for a moment he almost chooses his friends. But in the end, he chooses the path of darkness that leads him out of the village. And it's then that Naruto begins his quest to bring him back. After a quick fight in the Valley of the End, Sasuke, through using his second stage of the curse mark, manages to defeat Naruto at his strongest, showing that his belief that Orochimaru can make him stronger is valid. He leaves Naruto and returns to Orochimaru. His single goal is taking down Itachi, and after many years of training and learning and growing stronger, Sasuke does just that. He kills Orochimaru and fights Itachi, though Itachi dies of illness in the middle of battle. Essentially, Sasuke won by default, but a win's a win, right? He didn't get the time to enjoy this, though. He's then informed that Itachi's sacrifice of the clan was under the orders of the village, and that he did it personally simply to protect Sasuke, who would have been killed otherwise. Sasuke is overcome with grief, and it's this moment that awakens his Mangekyo Sharingan. It's also this moment that Sasuke's path of destruction leads back towards Konoha. The Hidden Leaf Village has become the new Itachi to Sasuke. He starts by attacking the Five Kage summit and personally killing the active Hokage, Danzo Shimura, who was also the one who ordered Itachi to destroy the Uchiha. It's here, though, that he's stopped by Team 7. Sakura attempts to deceive him so she could kill him. Kakashi scolds him for attempting to kill Sakura, and Naruto faces off against him again. Sasuke is shown that Naruto is still growing, and that Sasuke has a way to go, which leads him to taking the Sharingan from Itachi and implanting them to gain the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. He does this in preparation to fight against Naruto the next time, but the Fourth Shinobi World War has other plans. Sasuke, during this time, meets the impure world reincarnation of Itachi and begins to ask him questions. Itachi spills the beans and tells him everything. This causes Sasuke to begin reconsidering his path. Orochimaru is revived at this time, and Sasuke asks him for answers. Orochimaru would lead him to an Uzumaki storehouse that contains the Shinigami's mask, which he uses to undo the Reaper Death Seal. From here, Sasuke proceeds to ask the previous 4 Hokage what it means to be a shinobi, what the Hidden Leaf means, and it's Hashirama Senju who provides him with an answer. This causes him to fight against Obito and aid Naruto. When Kaguya takes over Madara's body, Sasuke and Naruto defeat her when they're both granted 6 Paths power, giving Naruto 6 Paths Sage Mode and Sasuke a Rinnegan. Through the use of 6 Paths Chibaku Tensei, they managed to seal away Kaguya, but before they could release the infinite Tsukiyomi, Sasuke demands a final battle. It's here that he says he will cast aside his past and become the Hokage. He vows to reform the system and also vows to kill the tailed beast to stop their misuse. Naruto rebukes him on this, claiming his ideas are impossible and that Naruto himself will be Hokage. And so, Sasuke plans to fight Naruto to the death, which culminates in a final clash between the Chidori and Rasengan. Sasuke loses his arm, but Naruto loses his life. This is the divergence point, and what will lead us to Sasuke's events that lead him to becoming Hokage. And due to 6 Paths Senjutsu, an immortal Hokage. Ending the Tsukiyomi, Sasuke would return to the Leaf along with the rest of the Leaf Shinobi. Sasuke is perhaps the strongest shinobi in the Leaf currently, and would, at this point, after having fought against Kaguya, would be probably closing in on the same levels as the first 2 Hokage, Hashirama Senju and Tobirama. So standing against him is almost impossible. He would use the tailed beasts as leverage to get the title of Hokage, and would then jettison the tailed beasts out past Earth's orbit into space. The only one who would not be jettisoned would be Kurama, who would have died with Naruto and would still be waiting to regenerate. Sasuke would further institute his team, Taka, as his emissaries, and would use them to help govern. Sasuke would travel with those shinobi who decide to help their new Hokage to various villages, which would still be weakened by the war, and he would single-handedly eradicate the other 4 Kage. He would institute Suigetsu and Jugo into positions of governors, which would act as Kage directly under Sasuke. He would then institute whatever others he might trust or think would willingly work for him. I'm trying to consider whether he'd use Orochimaru or not. He certainly wouldn't trust him, but Orochimaru is strong, And Sasuke knows, as well as Orochimaru knows, that if he screws up, Sasuke is coming after him. That being said, Sasuke wouldn't care much if Orochimaru would continue his experiments, since Sasuke was one of them for a while himself. I would say that perhaps after a year or so, the entire shinobi world would be under his control. The 5 great villages at least would be, and any nation that isn't would need to comply or be destroyed. This offers some level of stability once the 5th Shinobi World War ends and allows Sasuke to practically micromanage the world. During this year, he would focus on the Hyuga as well. Speaking of his dislike of their using curse seals to deal with their Byakugan. If it was to keep people from stealing it, that's certainly not working, as Ao has one. Not to mention, it offers the main branch far too much control on the secondary branches, essentially enslaving them. He would begin to outlaw its use. The Hyuga would agree to it, though they would also be fairly against Sasuke's way of doing things, and how he uses threat of force to accomplish everything. However, a year later, Toneri Otsutsuki appears and kidnaps both Hanabi and Hinata Hyuga, and Hiyashi is left defeated. Sasuke would then gather a small group of shinobi consisting of Shikamaru, Sai, Sakura, and Kakashi. They would travel to the moon to deal with Toneri personally. While there, he would find that Toneri has already wed Hinata and is preparing for the end. Sasuke would face off against him, while the rest of his team tend to Hinata and the currently blinded Hanabi. Sasuke, on the other hand, is fighting against Toneri. Sasuke and Toneri, the sole heirs of both Hagoromo and Hamada Otsutsuki, both at war with each other over their differing wills. Toneri over Hamada's will, and Sasuke over his own will. When Toneri summons his golem, Sasuke would summon his Susanoo. Sasuke would manage to beat out Toneri and defeat him. This would end the moon's descent on the earth and safeguard it. Sasuke would return to Earth and would resume his work. During the years after, say 5 years, Kurama would eventually regenerate. Realizing what had happened after his demise and no longer sensing the other tailed beasts, Kurama would be on the run, attempting to hide. His rebirth would instigate a new era of unrest, as every capable shinobi would seek his power. Sasuke would seek to dispose of it, as would all villages under his control. But all shinobi who wished to stand against Sasuke would be seeking out the Nine Tails in hopes of becoming the next Naruto and finishing what Naruto never could. This would spawn quite a few organizations, not too unlike the Akatsuki. In fact, the original spirit of the Akatsuki, when it was run by Yahiko, would reform, and would seek to free the world from the tyranny of Sasuke Uchiha. To do that, they seek the body of Madara Uchiha to reclaim the Rinnegan that was once used by Pain. At some point during the night, they would sneak into the leaf and would take the Rinnegan from the remains of Madara Uchiha. They would use that to unify a few of the other factions under themselves, making a small army of it. Sasuke would take notice of this, and would make the leader of this new Akatsuki the head of the list right beside Kurama. However, when you run, you tend to run in places you are less likely to be found by those who are looking for you. Considering that most of the world is loyal to Sasuke at this moment, it means that there are few places for such a large being as Kurama to hide. The world truly is a small one. They say that the best way to find someone who is lost is to become lost yourself. And given that the new Akatsuki is also attempting to hide from Sasuke, that means they're more likely to find him. So let's say that Kurama gets found by this new Akatsuki. They would contact their leader, the only one strong enough to bear the Rinnegan, someone from an offshoot Uzumaki clan. We'll give the guy a name. How about Nico? Nico Uzumaki. Sound good? You like that name? And for a face claim, given that he has red hair and Rinnegan, we'll just use Nagato. Everyone okay with that? Nico Uzumaki, the one people call the Resurrection of Pain, would meet up with Kurama after he's been told about him. Of course, Kurama isn't very open to talking, and as such would attempt to eat Nico, especially given that he possesses those blasted eyes that have caused him no end of trouble, as well as that black coat with the red clouds on it. However, Nico informs him that they're not the same Akatsuki as he knows, and are one formed to be as they originally were intended to be, one that does not seek the blood moon, but the daybreak instead. Nico would say that daybreak lies beyond Sasuke Uchiha, the self-proclaimed Ninkage, the authority shadow. He tells Kurama that he needs his help. He's not there to enslave the tailed beast nor to destroy him, but to simply, in the name of the Uzumaki clan of which Naruto once belonged, beg for his assistance. Kurama, being able to sense negative emotions, would detect no guile in Nico's heart, and would elect to trust him, especially given that the alternative is being sent into space like every other tailed beast before him. Kurama allows him to seal him into his body, using the same styles passed down in the Uzumaki clan. Given that Kurama is 100% willing to help, Nico would require very little bonding with Kurama to access his full power, and the seal would be a very loose seal, one that would allow Nico to make full use of Kurama's power. However, the trade-off is that when the war is over, Kurama will be able to freely leave Nico's body, which will result in Nico's death, but as a warrior, a shinobi, and as the current leader of the new Akatsuki seeking to free the world from Sasuke, he'd be okay with that. After all, from day one he was willing to sacrifice everything, including his life, to make this work. And his usage of the Rinnegan is proof of that. He had discarded the eyes of his birth for these, and he knew from the beginning that these eyes would drive him insane and possibly kill him if he were unworthy. From here, the Akatsuki would begin to work, hitting particular supply lines for the villages and making a name for themselves as the ones who would free the world from the brutal dictator Sasuke Uchiha. They would begin to gain traction among the villages. The first village they would attempt to take would be the Hidden Mist Village, ruled by its governor Suigetsu. The Akatsuki would storm in, and with the power of the Rinnegan and Kurama would manage to take the village. This first major victory officially begins the 6th Shinobi World War, and leads to many people throwing their weight behind the Akatsuki. Those who were too scared to stand up to Sasuke, or those who served because of fear, would all begin to line up to join this new team. And among the first recruits would be Kakashi Hatake and Sakura Haruno. Kakashi was an obvious choice for a new recruit, though I had issue making Sakura one of those who joined due to her love for Sasuke. But at this point, Sasuke has killed Naruto, ignored her, and created a one-world order with himself as the dictator. She finally would realize, I assume, that there's no saving Sasuke at this point, and would team up with Nico. Slowly, I believe that they would be able to free the other villages. They would finally make it back to Konoha, where the battle lines would be split. There'd be those who have no interest in fighting, Shikamaru, and then those who would immediately join the Akatsuki, like Rock Lee. And then there might be those who actually stick with Sasuke, like Ino. Ino I would see sticking with Sasuke, probably over her crush, but then again I could be wrong. I'll leave that up to you to decide. Sasuke would begin to fight against them. Now the thing is, those who possess transplanted Rinnegan don't display the abilities of those who originally had them, meaning that Nico would not be using Madara's limbo technique, and he most certainly wouldn't be using Susanoo. But given that Nico has Kurama, I could see him still keeping up. The biggest issue is Sasuke's Ame no Tejikara, which allows him to switch places with others. So when Kakashi would use his Shinden technique, Sasuke would likely switch places with Sakura, using Ame no Tejikara, likely getting her killed. However, with all these forces bearing down on him and with nowhere to go, Sasuke would end up defeated. Whether he's killed or imprisoned is up to you, but for the sake of the story, we'll just say that he's defeated. You can headcanon his fate yourselves. After this point, the villages are all freed, and the 6th Shinobi World War would come to an end. Kakashi would be reinstituted as the next Hokage, and would be in charge of helping the other villages rebuild. At this time, Nico would go to free Kurama as promised, but Kurama would disagree, stating that he thinks it's cozy inside of Nico and would elect to stay. A few more years pass, and we begin the Momoshiki arc. Given that they're all still rebuilding after the 6th Shinobi World War, there aren't many genin ready to become chunin, meaning that the chunin exams would not take place. However, this does not stop Momoshiki from attempting to take the Nine Tails from Nico. Given that nobody can really show up and help him, and since the 5 Kage relied on Sasuke for this, and given that there are very few shinobi at this time that can keep up with the 5 Kage, it seems unlikely that they would save Nico. The Nine Tails would be removed, causing his death, and would be used to further fuel the 10 Tails that Momoshiki brought with him. He would offer Kinshiki up for the 10 Tails consumption after he had found a suitable host for his Karma Seal, and then they would harvest all of the chakra from Earth, effectively killing it. I know, I just wrote another tragedy, but you gotta understand that these good endings are based a lot around Naruto and Sasuke together. If either of them are not present, it puts a lot of waves in the pond that ripple out into tsunamis. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed this little story I was telling. I actually enjoyed this one, especially the introduction of Nico Uzumaki. I always loved making OCs for different anime, and to make one for Naruto was pretty fun. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. Please leave comments below to tell me what you think. Also, feel free to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more content like this. Peace out.